Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I am here today with Jennifer Johnson.
Hi, I'm Linda Mitchell, 54-year-old elite obstacle racer, award-winning fitness competitor, gym owner, and author. Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat podcast, where we will approach the difficult topics of life, interview inspiring guests, and bring empowerment to all. This community is a place where we can be who we are instead of who others want us to be. Let's get started.
It's Linda Mitchell from Sisterhood of Sweat with a message from Essential Formulas, makers of Dr. Ohhira's Probiotics. For over 3 decades, Dr. Ohhira's Probiotics has redefined what it means to nourish your gut, blending ancient Japanese fermentation wisdom with cutting-edge microbiology. Unlike conventional probiotics grown in labs, Dr. Ohhira's Probiotics formula is naturally fermented for 3 years in a nutrient-rich medium. No artificial additives, no chemical fertilizers, just pure whole food ingredients transformed by time. You'll find non-GMO, 100% vegetarian, and hypoallergenic Dr. Ohhira's Probiotics at your favorite health food store nationwide. Discover the Dr. Ohhira difference. Welcome back to the Sisterhood of Sweat, the community where we believe strong women empower, achieve, and thrive together. Today, I'm joined by an incredible entrepreneur, business coach, best-selling author, and podcast host, Jennifer Johnson. Jennifer is the founder of True Fashionistas, Florida's largest lifestyle resale store, which has grown into a business generating more than $50 million in sales. After beginning her career as a national model and actress, she built an award-winning company while helping countless entrepreneurs find their confidence and use their voice through her coaching program. She is the author of Grace and Grit, Becoming a Confident Entrepreneur, host of the Confident Entrepreneur podcast, and has been featured by Time, CNBC, Newsweek, Vogue, Martha Stewart, Inside Edition, and many other national media outlets. Today, we're talking about grit, leadership, building a business that creates a ripple effect, and what it really takes to become a confident entrepreneur. Jennifer, welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat.
Thank you, Linda, so much for having me. I am excited to be here and excited to just have a conversation.
Well, your journey has had so many chapters, from modeling, acting, to building this multi-million-dollar resale empire. Looking back, what was the defining moment that changed everything for you?
Gosh, I don't think it was just one. I think it was along the way, something would happen. And I guess the big pivotal moment for me was when something would happen. I would sometimes go, oh, why is this happening to me? Oh my gosh, getting frustrated and all those things. When I was able to turn that around by saying, you know what, why is this happening for me? And I think that came into play, especially during COVID. And it was just that moment, I think, was a big defining moment for me. If I were to pick one, that was when it was solidified in my brain that, you know what, this could be a good thing. Things happen for a reason. And what are they? What am I supposed to learn from this? And that kind of changed my entire way of thinking of everything that goes on in life, whether it's good or bad, challenging. It's what am I supposed to learn from this so that next time can be different.
During that time, I realized I had forgotten to dream and I was just surviving. And so I had this epiphany as I sat here at this very desk. It was God is in charge. And our dreams are not canceled. And I started thinking about all the dreams that I'd had and dreams that, new ones just beyond my wildest dreams, everything I could dream.
Yeah.
And God started fulfilling all of those dreams during COVID, right in the middle of COVID. So it really doesn't matter your circumstance. Your dreams can still be fulfilled right in the midst of it. And so I love that you said that. Your book is called Grace and Grit. Why do these two words belong together?
Well, it's funny when I first started writing, I'm actually working on my second book right now, but when I first started writing that book, it was going to be called Beautiful Scars. Completely different idea. Like, you know how
Right.
that happens. You
Yes, that
start a
happened to me
project
too.
and then you're like, oh, I didn't know where that came from. And I was going to do Beautiful Scars because of all the challenges I've been through in my life, showing people you can come out on the other side ahead of the game, right? And I'm like, but I want this to apply to business owners. And so as I was sitting down book mapping this with my publisher, I was like, well, how did I get through all of that? Okay, I got through it, but how did I? And core values kind of came to the surface. And I was like, that's how I did it. And there was a lot of grit in everything that I did. And that was the pound in the sand. That was doing the thing, but it was done with grace. You need both. One is the actual doing, and one is the allowing yourself to do. It's allowing, a higher power is letting God let in your life and allow Him to move you where you're supposed to go, where He wants you to go. And that's how they marry together. And the book talks all about core values and what happens if you don't know what they are. And that's okay. We all have them. We just may not know what they are. You unearth them as you go through things, and maybe those aren't revealed to you for years later, but eventually you figure them out. So the marrying of grace and grit, it felt perfect because you need both in life.
Yeah. And I gotta say, when you have the trouble, don't wish it away because it's the defining moment for you. It's when your back is up against the wall that you truly know what your core values are
Mm-hmm.
and what you're made of and what you're here
Right.
for. And it really, to me, helps you dial it in. It's
Yeah.
how I came up with the name, the Sisterhood of Sweat. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't during, it was during a tough moment.
Yeah.
And I thought about what I wanted in my gym. And it was women that were empowering each other, building each other up, supporting each other, having each other's back.
Yeah.
And the name of my book was going to be Women Well Made.
Isn't it interesting when you look back, you're like, I'm glad I did what I did for my book. I'm glad I named it that. But you figure it out and it is what it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah, it's a
So it was
Sisterhood
supposed to
of
be the
Sweat.
Sisterhood of
Yeah,
Sweat.
that's what it is, and
Yeah.
that's what. And I've been confirmed, so many times by things that, the little whispers or the times I said a prayer, like in my
Hmm.
studio, I said, God, do you rescue people? And I bumped into my stereo, and on came the song Rescue by Lauren Daigle. And it says, I hear your SOS. Well, Sisterhood of Sweat, I already named it. I already had my jump boxes. This is a year at, well, it's actually a few years down the road that this happens to me in my studio. And I'm wondering, should I take over the other side during a pandemic? But I just kept feeling that nudge.
Hmm.
And the landlord kept him hawing around, and on came the song. And I knew in that instant more of my vision showed up of what I was doing this for in the first place. I had an SOS once upon a
Hmm.
time, and I believe all women do. And God hears your SOS, cares about you. And I am sorry to dispel the
Yeah.
notion that no one's coming to rescue you,
No.
because I believe He answered me in
Yeah.
no uncertain terms the day I prayed before going in a gynecologist's office.
My gosh.
I said a prayer. God, that was the first time I said, God, do you rescue people or do we have to do it ourselves? I walk into the hospital. I see a pink purse, which I love pink.
So do
I,
I.
it draws me in. And there in a box, I pick up a scripture verse all about how God rescues his people.
Hmm.
The song Rescue by Lauren Daigle
Hmm.
is all about how God rescues us in the middle of the
Hmm.
night, that he hears our cry. And that I knew right then, that that's what my mission was.
Hmm.
I felt like, yes, I got to take over the other side. And so then the landlord comes to the door and knocks on it. I want you to have this place, he says. Not let's negotiate. Let's talk about this another year. I want you to have this place. And in walks my friend with a gigantic pink purse. And I got to tell you, the pink purse showed up multiple times. And I got this huge one from my son. So I'm starting to kind of understand what that was for. But he's
Hmm.
showing us we can hold more than we ever dreamed.
Hmm. Right. But you know what you also did was you allowed, I have dubbed white space as pink space because it's my favorite color. I do whole keynotes on pink space, but you allowed that space for that to all happen. It wasn't, you weren't closed-minded about something. And I think a lot of people are, a lot of people shut it off and they're like, oh, this is just a bunch of hooey. It's just, I'm paying too much attention to this, but you weren't. You were open to it and you allowed the message to be sent. And people don't do that. They need to do that more.
Yeah.
Listen to those whispers, like you said.
Yes, and God showed me that I could do more than I ever dreamed. I mean, that was totally God. I did not have a
Hmm.
business plan, and I'm right next to 7 businesses that all do have business plans, marketing, and
Hmm.
multiple millions of dollars. And I was still standing at the end of COVID and
Hmm.
still am. But that's by the grace of God. God can take you places that
Hmm.
nobody else can.
Right.
And so I love your whole story. Why do you say that confidence isn't something that we're born with? How did you build yours? And what advice do you give someone to help them find their confidence?
Sure. We're not born with confidence. And I say that because I want you to think, put a picture in your mind of the first time you ever rode a bike. Okay. You didn't know how to ride a bike. You got on that bike and you were scared, and somebody had to help push you along and hold you. The next time you got on it, you were probably weren't as very good at it either. The third time, the fourth time, but maybe by the 10th time, because you'd practiced it, you got better at riding a bike. You had earned the confidence to ride that bike. So it's something that we learn the more we practice, the more we do something. And I work with small business owners. And I have to tell you a story here in a minute about how you bumped into the thing and the radio turned on and it was a Lauren Daigle song and the whole thing. I have a moment like that as well, and it involved my speaking, but I teach people that no, you have to practice things in order to get your confidence level up. And whether that's with public speaking or whether that's with riding a bike or whether that is, showing up at networking events where you're highly uncomfortable because you don't have the confidence level to talk to people. It's all about practice. The more you do something, the better you're going to be at it. So it was probably about 6 months, 7 months ago, I had put this thing out on LinkedIn and saying, hey, hire me to be your keynote speaker because that's what I do. I do professional speaking. And it was literally my offers page on my LinkedIn telling them, this is what I speak on. That was it. Within a couple of hours, I get a message on LinkedIn, somebody asking me, hey, can you coach me on how to speak professionally? Another hour goes by, if that even. Another person, by the end of the night, 10 people had sent me messages saying, hey, I want you to teach me how to speak. And I was like, I called my friend up and I go, can you read this for me? Can you tell me if I say anything in it that I coach people on speaking? Because at this point, I mean, I was coaching people, small business owners. That's what I did. And then I did public speaking on the side and I had my business. Well, she's like, no, I don't see anything in here like it at all. The next day, it just kept going. And I'm like, all right, God, you are telling me something here. I need to listen, and this is what I'm going to do. And I created a program to teach people how to use their most powerful voice or their most powerful asset, which is their voice. And it's called The Power of Your Voice. I created that program because it was pretty loud. It was literally like he dropped a hammer from the heavens onto my head and went, what are you doing? You need to be doing this. So I told your story just resonates so much with me that if I wasn't listening and you weren't listening, we wouldn't be doing the things we're doing.
Definitely not. Definitely not. I love that you said that it's called the power of your voice. I love that because I was afraid to use my voice and I almost lost my voice forever when I was married. And that's what my why is,
Hmm.
domestic violence.
Yeah.
I'm a survivor and I don't want any woman out there to ever have to go through that, feel alone, feel stuck in that, and not realize her true value. And so I, used to have fear of public speaking because when I was young, I totally got the lines at a play of my friend that was sick and my lines, and I totally froze on the
That
stage.
scarred you.
So I never aspired after that to be a public speaker. So when God started calling me, I'm like, what? Me, God, are you sure? And he confirmed it for me. But like,
Mhm.
it wasn't something I aspired that I wanted to do. And so when he was calling me, I had to just like know for sure, is this you? Are you really calling me? And so I started a podcast, and then I waited a year to do that. And then after I started the podcast, I felt called to do these solo rounds, and I waited a year to do that. And then after, that, I felt called speaking, and he confirmed
Mhm.
that in some powerful ways. And, I waited probably another year. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, so it's just that calling,
Mhm.
stepping into it. And I've used every vehicle that I can use to
Mhm.
be able to talk to women, because you can talk to people not just on a stage.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. And I, like you, I have also a background of domestic violence and sexual assault. And
Same on that, the
yeah,
second one. Yeah.
yeah, you need to, I think that is also how the name of my program became what it was, because it just spoke to me. It was use your voice. And I remember actually sitting, I'm on a few boards, and I sat at this board meeting, and I was really new on this board, and because you had mentioned about, being afraid to speak up. I'm sitting at this board meeting, and I'm like, there's all a bunch of guys, and they're all attorneys, they're all financial people. And here I am, little old me, a small business owner. And I kept thinking to myself during that meeting, why am I at this table? Why am I here? Why me? They have so much more to offer. And then it clicked. I realized, wow, I see why I'm at this table. I have a completely different skill set than these other people. They all work corporate jobs. They've never had to do what I had to do to get us where we're at with our business. And they've never lived my life. And I've never lived theirs. We all bring a different skill set. And that's why your voice is important. Whether or not you can see it immediately, or it takes you a year or two to figure it out, it's important. You need to speak up. And I think a lot of us don't, we're too shy. We don't step into our claim. Even though some people may think, I know why I should be here, but they're not stepping into it because, again, they haven't practiced that. And practice is what brings that confidence that we were just talking about.
Yeah, there is so much power in using your voice. I
Hmm.
remember asking Tim Story, who is like the preacher to the stars, but I asked him, how do I get started speaking? And he said, just to speak to the people right in front of you.
Hmm.
And that is what I began doing in my studio, and people began to cry.
Hmm.
And, I spoke at my grand opening, though I tried to put other people in place so I wouldn't have to. I spoke, and people were crying in the audience. And people were so touched when I got selected to be part of Trisha Brooks' speaker salon in New York City, and got to speak on the same stage. I once sponsored a TEDx talk with the
Oh,
Sisterhood of Sweat. And I was literally in Italy in a castle waiting for my turn to go. This whole story you have to listen to on another episode so you can find out why I'm in the middle of a castle in Italy. Because when God does things, he doesn't do them halfway.
no.
He does them all the way. I'm getting chills right now, but I didn't know I was on the screen. I had no idea that I was on the screen at the speaker salon because I couldn't make it that week. And everybody's watching me and my family in the because we left the castle because it became my turn. Me and my family, I think it was a little Fiat. I know it was a very tiny little car. And we're driving, and I'm telling my story, and they really haven't heard the whole thing because I'm my husband that I'm married to now, I've been with for almost 32 years.
Wow.
He's not the domestic violence guy. And so they're hearing it, and my husband gave my hand a squeeze, and in the back seat, my family's touched. And then I hear later, this is the moment of the speaker salon that moved people the most. I
Wow.
have no idea. I just am telling my story. I felt kind of comfortable because I'm not really in front of anyone, and but it just is the power of using your
Hmm.
voice. It's just the power. There's a power in that authenticity, and you do get a little emotional, and you have to learn to be able to harness that so that you can touch other people's lives. And what I learned too is when I use my voice, other people feel encouraged to use their voices.
Right. And the other component of that outside of authenticity is the vulnerability part of it. You were stripping it all down and sharing it where people can see when you do that, that it brings in that authenticity part and people can see themselves in you.
Oh, yeah.
And when they can see themselves in you, there's that commonality factor, that bond that happens, that people go, wow, I thought it was just me, or, I thought I was all alone in this. And they realize they're not. And that is a powerful moment for sure.
I definitely felt naked. When we're at the speaker's salon, I always knew, and that was probably part of the dragging of feet, is that my talk was not going to just be about greens and working out.
Mm-hmm.
And that it was going to be a whole lot more. And so that requires you to strip yourself bare and lay your soul right out there. And, I'm glad that I did because I wouldn't have it any other way now that I've done it. But it is scary. I mean, it is scary to put your life out there, to speak and state what's on your heart, but it's so, so worth it. What are some of the greatest successes that you have achieved by opening your mouth?
Well, there's one that trumps all of them. And it wasn't necessarily sharing my voice because she hadn't heard me speak at that point, but she had heard something or she had read something about me, something that I had written, something that was published. This was several years ago. I was at my store and I'd gotten a phone call. This was before the store was even open for the day. And it was a woman that said, hey, is the owner there? I really need to talk to her. And I picked up the phone and I said, well, this is she. And she says, I really need to come in and have a conversation with you. And at that point, I'm like, oh gosh, what happened? I don't know. But I invited her in and she sat down with me in my office and she said, I have to tell you that I have been beaten, assaulted, every horrible thing you can imagine, not once, not twice, but 3 times by 3 different men with my children in tow. And I had to get out and I got out, but I have a lot of guilt, a lot of shame. I never went to get help because I always thought that it was a certain kind of person that this happened to. Okay. The typical stigma that everybody has. And she was, and then I read your story and I saw that you were successful and you served your community doing all different things. And I realized it doesn't just happen to people like that. And I wanted to have a conversation with you. After she had the conversation with me, she went to get help. Because let's face it, something happens to someone and it may not have happened yesterday or last week or last month. It could have been 10 years ago, but they never started a healing journey because they never went to get help. Because what is the number one thing that someone has been through domestic violence or sexual assault? What is the number feeling that they feel?
Shame.
Ashamed. They feel shameful.
They feel shamed.
Yeah. And that's what she felt because she's like, oh, I'm just, I'm that person. So it happened to me. And then she realized that that wasn't so. And it gave her permission. So by me, again, I didn't open my mouth the first time that she read what she read, but I did. And then I had the conversation with her and I opened my mouth and whatever she had heard made her go, I'm going to get help. I need this. And that's probably the most powerful and beautiful thing that's ever happened by me opening my mouth. It's not the keynotes that I've given on stages in front of thousands. It's not that. It was a one-on-one moment with somebody like that. And I'll never lose sight of that because that's why I continue to advocate. That's why I continue to have conversations. I don't care who it is. I am not ashamed to share my story because we need to just shed that whole belief that we need to stick our head in the sand and be ashamed. Not an easy subject to talk about, but one that's worth talking about.
Shame only lives in secret. And that's the thing people don't realize.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to talk about it, you get to process it, you get to heal.
Right. And that's, I'm involved in a sexual assault center here in my area. And I started that, goodness, probably 15 years ago for that specific reason. I'm like, you know what? It's time to give back. It's time to heal. And that's the byproduct of it, which you don't go into it thinking that's going to happen or expecting it, but it's wonderful when it does.
That is so cool. How many years have you been doing that?
Oh my gosh, probably the last 13 years.
That's amazing.
So,
Love that. I feel
yeah.
definitely aligned with that. Why do you think so many people struggle confidently share their message, and how can they overcome that fear?
I don't think they may know that their voice is powerful, that they have something to say, because a lot of people diminish, oh, well, I'm not an MBA. I don't have an MBA, or I don't. For me, I didn't have a college education. I graduated from college at 51. Well, it was still 50 last December. So I think people, there's a lot of reasons, but people, it's always well, I don't have this, or I don't have that, or I'm not that. And they don't give themselves enough credit. They don't step into their claim. And that's the number one reason. The second reason is, I don't know what I want to say.
Yeah,
And,
they
and,
don't know
and
what to say first, or yeah.
Right. And so my answer to that is start writing some things on paper. And we have this wonderful thing called AI that can help you. It can help you with ideas. It can help you set up the framework of which to create a speech if that's what you need to do. I have people who come to me, I don't even know how to write a thank you note, because it's not something that's taught. It's not something that somebody learns in school. Who's out there teaching that? Nobody, right? And it's using your voice, it's just the written word. So it's a matter of, I think people need to, again, practice and be still enough to figure out what it is they want to say. Hey, I'm headed to a cocktail party, and, I know that there's going to be this person, and this person there. Okay, great. So if you don't really know who they are, then go on LinkedIn or go on Facebook or Instagram somewhere and find out some information about them. So that when you go to the cocktail party, hey, I saw that you just did this, or I saw that, let's talk about that. That's such a cool opportunity. And you know what I mean? Like finding out about the people that are going to be in the room, if you can figure that out, if you're going to a cocktail party or something like that. That's important. I even do it with my audiences when I'm doing a speaking gig. I will try to figure out two people in the audience, who they are, maybe their favorite food or their favorite whatever. And I will somehow use that and craft that within my speech, because people like to hear their name. People like to be like, oh, how does she know I like that? Right? You catch them off guard. It's unexpected. So I think just the scary part of actually doing it, people, what speaking is like the second scariest thing besides death, I think is what everybody tells us. And I don't think it needs to be scary. We do it every day. We talk every day to someone. So you just have to reframe how you think about it. And your audience is, whether it's an audience of one or an audience of 100 or 1,000, they're rooting for you. They don't want you to fail on that stage or in a one-on-one conversation. Just think of it that way, and that may help.
I really learned it's about your message
Hmm?
because I was going to New York and I forgot my suitcase, and all I had was the fitness clothes I had on my back. And so I'm going around New York trying to figure the whole thing out. And I walk into Sephora, I secure a curling iron, and then I had one bag, had like my snacks and that kind of thing. I like literally am like, okay, it's so hot. There's so many people, and I'm carrying this heavy bag. I'm just gonna go to the hotel. And I had bought a dress at the airport in case I needed to have, to wear it. I get to the hotel and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have any underwear. I don't have, because I had fitness wear with a
Right.
cotton panel, and I'm like, shoes, underwear. Okay, where am I going to go to get these
Mhm.
things? I go to Target in the middle of New York City, which was not well supplied. I hate to say, most of the time, Target is well supplied.
But it's probably
There
a
I
tiny
am.
one,
I'm in
right?
the middle of Target, and the only choices are granny panties or a thong.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an extra large. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I'm looking for shoes, and it was two of the ugliest pair of shoes I have ever
Of
seen.
course.
I literally got a call from my friend, and I am like, which is the least ugly?
Oh my
And
gosh.
I'm like, okay. So I made my choices, and she actually happened to be a coach for entrepreneurs. So she was pumping me up. And in that moment, I realized it was about showing up, and I was going to
Mm.
show up no matter what I had to wear. It didn't matter. I was showing up to deliver my message. And that is when I went back to the other hotel. I forgot to mention that they canceled my reservation.
No.
I had no clothes, no reservation, no suitcase. And I went back to that hotel in the morning, right before the event, and there's my suitcase. But it didn't show up until I had made that commitment.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to show up no matter what, because you know what? And I knew that at Mrs. USA this weekend. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about your clothes.
Mm-hmm.
It's about you. It's about your
Right.
message that you have to bring to the world. And I just
And
knew it
your
wasn't.
audience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not about what you wear. It's not, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, of course it matters, but you know what I mean? Not as much
Right.
as you think.
Right.
And it's not about the hair, the makeup,
Mm-hmm.
the tan, all this stuff.
Right.
Um, and I knew that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you really get the fact that it's about the other people that you're speaking to and the message that you need to bring that is so important that you would do just about anything to bring it, I think that that's when you fully step into that powerful voice.
Yeah, and I cannot remember who it was. There was a famous person that there was a term that they had coined, and I'm going to get it all wrong, but I'm going to give you the gist of it, where they said, I really started excelling as a speaker when I realized I wasn't showing up for me. I was showing up for them, meeting the audience.
Yeah,
And
totally.
that's when I started excelling. And going back to you showing up, and I just say, people, just do the dang thing. Whatever it is, just do the dang thing. I don't care what it is. And it's all about showing up. It's all about being consistent. And just put one front and foot in front of the other. I do this whole thing about you don't need the entire staircase. You don't. You just need the first step. Take the first step and then you can look at the second step. And that's how you have to do it when you're first learning how to, craft your message and speak better and all of those things. Yeah, it can be scary. But again, if you don't make it about you and you make it about them, it's going to be much easier. And, the famous Maya Angelou quote about it's all about how you made them feel. They're never going to remember what dress you wore. They're never going to remember your shoes. They're going to remember the message that you left them with. And that's the most important part.
Yeah, because I just think about who the most influential people were in my life, my
Hmm.
grandmother, and I think about the fact of did it have anything to do with anything she wore, the way she looked?
Hmm.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing whatsoever. So you can make an impact by showing up. And that's the number one tip for
Hmm.
all
Absolutely.
speakers is you got to show up. Second one is jump in the pool, completely immerse yourself, jump fully in. Don't leave one foot out and one in, just go fully in. And you have this, I can't let you get away without asking you about your business. I mean, my
Hmm.
gosh,
Yes,
you
yes.
have built such a business. Tell me just a little bit about that journey and how did you do it?
Sure. So I, my husband and I started it back almost, it'll be going on 16 years soon. And we actually started it with a business partner who exited after about 2 months, and it wasn't a good deal. And it's all part of the story, and that's okay. It made us who we are today. But I started the business because when I grew up in Minnesota, I was the second oldest of six kids, very poor, didn't get new clothes, went to garage sales, doing the whole thing. And I think it was kind of ingrained in me. I loved fashion probably from the moment I came out of the womb. I don't know. And I don't know why, because nobody in my family has any love for fashion whatsoever. But somehow it became part of me. And when I moved to Florida, I went, there's nothing here that exists, what I have in my brain, which was marrying high-end designer resale. So consignment, we're talking the really high-end brands with your more mid-market things like Lululemon, Aloe, Lily Pulitzer, those brands, they can sit alongside and play in the sandbox with Chanel and Louis and Gucci, but nobody was doing it. They all were really, really luxury or they were really, really inexpensive. And so we started it and started out at 1,800 square feet. Then next year it turned into 3,600 square feet. Then we couldn't grow any bigger in the plaza right next to us. So we started a home store and furniture business, same business, but just another location, a couple stores away from ours in the same plaza. And then back in 2022, we combined the entire concept into one. And it is what it is today. And we have almost 50 employees. And I love what we do. Back when we started almost 16 years ago, it was not a cool thing. Resale consignment was like, nah, it was just starting to maybe become popular. And really, in the last 5 years, it's really, really taken off. And people are embracing resale as the first place they go to before they even think of going into a regular retail store because they're realizing the value. So there's so many things. They're getting a unique piece that they'd never get anywhere else because our shoppers shop from all over the country, and they're getting the biggest value for their money. They can buy 3, 4, maybe even 5 pieces from us for the price of buying one regular retail. And then they're helping the environment. So they're doing 3 things all at once. It's hard to argue with. When you look at all of the facts that way, it's just a really great business to be in. And we changed the resale industry. We thought about it differently. Right from the get-go, we had a website. Nobody in our industry had a website because you have one of everything. You don't have 5 of the same thing. And so it's very labor intensive, but we believed in that. And to this day, 100% of our inventory is on our website. So it's been a great business and love what we're doing. And the whole saying, if you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life. And there are days that I'm in there at 4:30 in the morning, still doing it because I love it. It's a labor of love for me, for sure.
One piece of advice you would give to somebody who's sitting on a dream but afraid to take the next step?
Just do the darn thing. That would be number 1. Number 2,
that.
again, remember how I said you don't need the entire staircase. What is the first step that you can take? I actually teach a grit framework. And it talks about how you get there. You ground yourself in your core values, and there's many different steps, but you just need the first step. That's all you need. And once you've done that, then you can go to the next step, then the next step, and go on from there. But if you don't actually do it, you're going to be, what are you waiting for? 2, 3 years are going to go by and you're going to be like, I didn't do the thing. I really wish I would have done that thing. And then all of a sudden it's too late and you can't do that thing anymore, whatever that thing is. And that's heartbreaking. It really is. And, I talk about this thing called identity debt, where we buy things because we believe by buying those things, like we buy a planner because we think it's going to make us organized. But you have to actually use the planner, newsflash, to make you organized. And it's the only kind of debt that the dividend, or that that you don't pay interest on right now. You pay interest on it on your deathbed because you're looking back going, I didn't do any of those things. So look at it that way. Just do it. Just do it. What's stopping you? Figure out what's stopping you and make it go away, and then do it.
That was so good. I love the whole thing that you said about identity debt. My gosh, you think that thing is going to make you whatever, like that thing you want to be. It's all an inside job, first of all. And sometimes it's about doing hard things, that give you that sense of confidence and that no one can shake.
Right.
And realizing not to seek your validation from other people that may never give it to you.
Right.
And give it to yourself. And knowing, recognizing your value and your worth, all of those things are what really give you an identity.
Yeah.
I feel like we have an identity crisis in America today. And I feel like a lot of it has to do with social media. And also just not really knowing who you are and whose you are. It all kind of rolls into that. So I loved how you touched on that.
Yeah. And we buy things because those things become containers for our feelings, if that makes sense. So you buy the dress, not because you're buying the fabric or that dress. You're buying the feeling that it gives you. So that dress becomes the container for the feeling, if that makes sense.
It does. It definitely does. Although I will say some dresses make you feel like $1 million when you're in them.
I'm not going to disagree with that. I am not.
But I did wear my gown for Mrs. USA from 16 years ago.
Wow.
And I placed second runner up.
Congratulations.
And I felt really good in that gown. I did not buy a new gown.
Congratulations.
I just used the 2 gowns I already love.
So I have a question for you. So I was a former Miss Petite Minnesota, and back in my day, it was all about everybody that wore a white gown was always in the top 5 or the top 10. Is that still the case?
No, I wore red.
Okay. It's so funny because back then it was like, oh my gosh, if you're wearing a white, you've got to wear a white dress because that's going to get you, but then we all, and goodness gracious. It was so long ago.
Oh my gosh. I'm Mrs. Ohio, and that was Mrs. USA. So I did wear a white suit, however.
Okay.
for the interview round.
Hmm.
That suit, oh my gosh. But again, it's just really, again, it's you. They're
Hmm.
looking at you, and you don't want them only looking at your clothes,
Right.
right? So I love that you do that. What have you done, to give back through your business?
My gosh. Well,
I like to hear about that.
we're pretty rooted in our community. I serve on several different boards in our area, and that's one of the biggest give backs. We also do charity events at our business. And so in my area, which is Florida, we are very prone to hurricanes, and we become a drop-off spot for hurricane relief supplies. We had several pretty bad hurricanes within the span of a couple of years, several a year. And that was a big thing for us to be able to give back to our community in that respect. But, like any small business, we're the ones out there supporting the Little League team, the cheerleading team, the this, the that. And I really encourage people to shop local, shop where you live. It's very important. So we just believe in being out there and being involved in our community.
If you could sit down with your younger self at the very beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, what advice would you give her?
It's all going to be okay. Just listen to the whispers.
Love that. And tell us about your coaching program before we go, in case somebody would like to be a part of that. The
Yes,
power of your voice.
so the power of your voice, our first cohort kicks off on Monday, July 20th at 10 a.m. And in that cohort, it's a 7-week program for an hour a week. And after the class is done for the day, you'll get homework to work on for the next week. But at the end of it, you're going to walk away with much more confidence in your speaking abilities, whether it's I want to be on stage someday or I just want to have one-on-one conversations. You're going to walk away with a deeper purpose of what you can speak about. We're going to work on your elevator pitch, whether it's a personal pitch or a pitch for your business. And I'm keeping it intentionally small for the first few cohorts. I'm limiting it to 10 people because it really needs one-on-one. And you can also hire me after the fact to coach you as well. But I'm really liking the formula that I have set up where we're doing it in a group. And the investment is very nominal, and I think you'll get a lot out of it and come out on the other side of it going, oh my gosh, I want more. So it's going to be a great kickoff on Monday.
Well, I love the name.
Thank you.
So how can they get a hold of you to do this? Is there a link?
Sure. So if you go onto my website, jenniferannjohnson.com, and you click on Academy, the first link under that will be the Power of Your Voice Academy. So you can sign up there. And like I said, we are recording the sessions, but the live cohort does start on Monday, the 20th. And you can also check me out on LinkedIn, Jennifer Ann Johnson. I'm also on Facebook and on Instagram as well. And then True Fashionistas is truefashionistas.com.
I love that. I can't wait to look that up. I love that your story reminds us success isn't just about revenue. It's about resilience, relationships, leadership, and having the courage to keep showing up when life gets hard. And to everyone listening, if today's episode encouraged you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and remember, strong women empowering, achieving together. Thank you so much for coming on, Jennifer. I so appreciated you today and your story and just your light that you bring.
Thank you so much, Linda.
Until next time, you guys, keep showing up, keep believing, and keep sweating towards the life God created you to live. And as always, keep on keeping on. Bye, everyone.
And I hope that all of our listeners have enjoyed this podcast. And if you guys have really enjoyed this, please review us in iTunes and also share this episode with your friends and your loved ones. Thanks again for listening to the Sisterhood of Sweat.